Wherever you are, good morning and good afternoon. I'm Michael Forhez, Global Managing Director for the Consumer Markets at Oracle. And today we brought together some terrific and informing sessions for you to listen to in our Industry Insights, the New Connected Retailer. You'll be hearing from big brands who will be speaking candidly about what they've gone through in the past year as a retailer faced with the effects of an historic pandemic and the need and desire to implement new digital technologies, all while remaining true to the voice and brand essence. We've also brought key industry experts from the National Retail Federation and Forrester who will be sharing relevant topics and issues facing the retail trade, as well as the state of the industry as a whole. And throughout all of this, we will cover the sector's continuing digital transformation and the importance of creating and nurturing today's loyalty as a way to elevate the customer experience and boost revenue. We're so glad you're here today, so let's get started. I've been looking forward to this conversation with you, Sucharita and Artemis, even as I've been personally reflecting on what retail has meant to me, both as a shopper and like yourselves in serving as a professional. As I think about a pre-pandemic world, I see much of the shopping experience as equal parts theater, service, and promise, all within a branded environment I would have recognized whether in Boston or Barcelona, San Francisco or Singapore, Dallas and Dubai, cities that I was seeing a lot of over the last couple of years, in fact. Today, we have an expanded range of ways and means to serve a more demanding and discerning shopper. A shopper who can shop from anywhere and at any time, a shopper who has product information at their very fingertips, a shopper that, if they're an influencer, can and will tell the world what they think of that store, with the whole world listening and likewise deciding. The days of temporary price reductions, general advertising, and I don't know, stack it high, watch it fly, I think are no longer, or at least by themselves, sufficient, if you will, to entice. Retail has come full circle through a period of mass manufacturing, distribution, and marketing to a point where a comprehensive customer experience now sets the very stage for a more interesting, useful, and perhaps authentic buyer-selling relationship. And it's with this recognition that I thought it would be interesting for all of us to chat a bit and explore what you think has been happening and where you think we're heading. The requirements to power and empower a seamless customer experience was already being examined and experimented with pre-COVID. Given the immediate needs of our times, however, retailers accelerated these changes. So the first question to both of you, if I may pose, and to start, what have we learned so far, and how has this impacted the adoption of new processes and technologies that retailers have been rushing to bring to market that they can serve shoppers wherever they are, whatever their need states?
Yeah, I can certainly jump in. One of the things that I think we learned through the pandemic was this great ability to move very quickly. Retailers really had no choice but to just jump to it and put in things that they may have been discussing candidly for decades, whether it was inventory visibility across channels or curbside pickup and ship from store programs. These were initiatives that retailers had been talking about since the year 2000. They quickly figured out a way to integrate these into their businesses. And I think that that will be one of the lasting legacies, is this ability to move quickly, to experiment, and to really just deliver against what are the attributes that consumers want, and how do you do that as rapidly and in a way that helps you still also meet your goals for your stores and your store associates.
Yeah, that's great. Artemis, what are your thoughts here?
I completely agree with Sucharita. I think that speed to response, particularly around some of the how we could utilize store tech and just innovation as a whole, was amazing. And we continue to see that. I think that's going to be one of the things that takes us into the future of retail, and the need to do so to match the consumer needs. The things I would add to it are the focus on just analytics and especially in this world where there was a little bit less of a playbook. I mean, we've been through all kinds of shifts, but just being able to, go with the data you have and go outside of, how you planned normally year over year, and just that attention to detail. I think the teams that were set up for looking at the data, maybe a little bit more data centric, maybe a little bit more digital first, are the ones, I believe, thriving through some of this. And then, I mentioned the digital first thinking. There is there's a need to make sure they're understanding, kind of, if they hadn't the last 20 years, the emphasis around e-commerce and utilizing what Suchrita mentioned around things like curbside pickup. That's not going to go away when the pandemic is over. You're going to see the consumers kind of holding on to some of that for sure. So I think, again, the brands that aren't thinking of it as just a short-term fix, that really are embracing digital now, and hopefully aligning it with the people they're hiring and the talent they're retaining, to kind of take them into the next iteration of their own brands and how they have to think about the consumer.
Yeah, that's got a lot covered, Artemis. I'm struck by two things. You mentioned analytics in the beginning, and then, how do we hire? And I think implied, right? How do we train? How do we inspire, if you will, the folks who are serving us, that they can actually feel a part of the experience themselves? I think that lends itself, we spoke about this a moment ago, to more authentic experience. And so, Sucharita, I'm wondering how we can build on that. Analytics and staffing. How do you envision retailers more effectively communicating and engaging with their guests once we come through this period and into a hopefully safer world?
Yeah, so the question of analytics and staffing, these are two of the biggest questions that I think every merchant needs to really grapple with. And from an analytics standpoint, a lot of it is just getting the right inputs all in one place. We're seeing tremendous investments in customer data platforms. We are seeing investments in things like chief data officers. So certainly and that also segues into hiring, right? Because it is rethinking the org structure, getting the right people in place to actually come up with the insights and then act on the insights. The last piece that's probably also critical to think about is operationalizing everything. But it's not just the customer data piece, it's also product data, there's store analytics data. So we're seeing data infusing the need for data, the hunger for data, and kind of data warehouses that integrate all kinds of data sources that help support an operation, a retail operation. From a hiring standpoint, what we're seeing is senior level employees reporting to C-levels, chief data science officers, heads of data, and all of those people have data science teams. They're hiring PhDs and statisticians to better understand where their gaps are, where their opportunities are. And this brings forward a new culture of decision-making that's data-driven, as opposed to opinion-driven, which is often historically how retail has often made decisions in the past.
Right, I appreciate that. And I really appreciate what you just said about reacting to and the gut instinct. So much of retail intergenerationally has been about incremental improvement. And I think shoppers in this day and age have become more, how should you say, expectant of what they're going to get for their time and their money, and relentless, if you will, even in their quest to find that ideal experience, and not just the right product at the right price at the right time, but is it worth going to this store versus that store for the pair of jeans or for the gown or what have you? So regarding shoppers, we've mostly been shopping, all of us, right from home for a year now. How, Artemis, do you imagine the next phase of shopping? And I'm also thinking about, when I asked that question, frictionless commerce, and we're talking about digital transformation. So some combination of in-store and out-store, the omni-channel is what many have been calling it for a while. What are your thoughts about what comes next, and even next after next?
Right. So I mean, I do think you're going to see some of the behavior that we've seen through the pandemic, some of the education, some of the innovation in tech and connecting stores and online to continue. I think that's going to be a win, honestly, for many retailers. They've wanted to get there, and it's been happening incrementally versus kind of this kind of major shift. So I'm hoping that brands are many of our brands know that, and they're continuing to invest in the people and the tech to make that possible. But I do think there's an element of, especially after this last year and what may end up being more like a year and a half, that there's an experience element that we can't forget about. That there are some people that are really looking forward to going back and having kind of a
Mm.
bit of their routine that may involve, some stores more than others. But I do think that, we will see that. I think many of our retail brands are thinking about what the store should look like, what kind of training and support they're giving their associates in stores to kind of build off of this momentum and this crazy year that we've had. So we'll keep seeing the tech investment, but you're going to see the consumer come back and to engage in that experience and want a mix of a little bit of what they had and maybe a little bit more of that kind of 360 shopping experience that they have learned to that is their norm now. So I think the answer is you're going to see a mix, and the tech behind it, the teams behind it are going to be critical to making that possible.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I've been fascinated to both watch as a practitioner, but participate as a shopper myself in this new age. I mean, the speed at which we've adapted is astonishing. When we think back, I think in a few years hence, we're going to realize just how much changed in the space of 12 months and how much didn't change back. We've had to move forward, and I think that will not be lost on leadership as they begin the process of inventing shopping for a new age. So final thoughts then from both of you. We've been talking about the store and shopper experience and what have you, and the utilization of technology and how do we hire and train. I think that was implied in some of this. What's it actually going to mean? What's the effect, the rational experience of why? I'm going to ask myself, why should I go back to a store at all when this is done and said? What are my expectations? What should stores be thinking about in order to serve me more comprehensively? And I use that word inspired a couple times today, but what is it they're going to do to inspire us that we'll want to come back to the store? And I know that we're all going to be anxious to get out and about again, go to restaurants, see our friends, walk down, Main Street with our loot, if you will. But beyond that, what's it going to take? What is it about us that stores are going to have to reflect on? Because we're going to be manifestly different out of this on the other side. And I think stores are going to have to recognize that. So I'd like both your thoughts there, if I may.
When we're thinking about stores, stores are not going away. Stores are an institution that have been around for thousands of years. And what we may see in the future is a shakeout of stores, particularly in a region like the United States, where we have more stores per capita than almost anywhere else in the world. But stores are also incredibly resilient. We've seen fewer stores closing through the pandemic than we would have anticipated. And I think a large part of that is that stores serve a purpose. It's everything from being able to get merchandise quickly to enabling people to touch and feel merchandise. They serve as experiential centers where people discover products and can learn about the attributes of different products and ask questions about those products. In terms of how technology can support that, there are so many things that technology can still do, whether it is enabling customers to talk to a store associate that may or may not even be physically located at that location, but can still answer a question at a more proximate store. So I think that the ideas around technology enabling and enhancing stores will be very, very different in the next decade, and they'll be more exciting, and it will be all solutions that improve margins, but also help to improve the customer experience.
Oh, terrific. Thanks so much for that. Artemis, your thoughts as we conclude?
I mean, I think Sucharita hit the nail on the head with all of this. I think the for us, the retail industry is a resilient one. It's one that many times is kind of at the forefront of um, adopting what consumers kind of need on the innovation front. I think this will speed us along as well. I think some of the investments we need to continue to make, we'll see. But the core of that is kind of the health of the consumer and the state of the economy. And I think that's going to really impact, what they are going to be able to continue to spend. And we are a very, diverse industry. So and kind of represent everything from Main Street retailers to our largest chain brands. So I think we have to think of it, diversify what that means and what the consumer is really wanting. So it'll be exciting. It'll be exciting to kind of get back to some of that normal again. And if going back to kind of Sucharita's original points around kind of the speed of moving that I think was important, and I think it's good that the industry got that and our teams got that. We had some amazing conversations with our CIOs talking about what they had to operate internally as kind of keeping the company running, but then with that consumer facing element and how they had to collaborate with their peers. There's some big wins coming out of this. So I think as long as we have continue to work on kind of the spending power behind the consumers, keeping that economy as healthy as we can, taking the little wins that we had out of this is moving perhaps a little bit faster, kind of implementing that tech, thinking of our teams and the talent we need to run really successful organizations and consumer first kind of thinking. I think a lot of that will tie back to them coming back to that store and what the store of the future really looks like.
Yeah, that's great. I really appreciate that. I like that you said that little wins and they add up to big wins. And then, just thinking about stores and teams and, that we're here to serve. I've often thought my best shopping experiences wasn't just about what I bought, though that certainly was the primary reason for going there in the first place. But the experience itself, how was I treated? Was I acknowledged? Sure, a clean store, but was it curated in a way that made it interesting? And I think that stores have had a chance to, if you will, pause in the midst of this extraordinary moment in history, take a breath and reassess, what are we here to do? What are we here? What's our purpose? And it's not just, if you will, selling lots of stuff and turning a profit. Certainly stores do both those things, but when they serve authentically and when they serve with thoughtfulness, I think they serve their purpose as well. And I, for one, am looking forward to visiting stores again and seeing my friends and enjoying a day of shopping once in a while, breaking up my week. So I just want to thank both of you. I thought it was a great conversation, and I'm looking forward to the balance of the hours that we're all going to be spending together. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Hi, this is Rose Spicer. I'm responsible for industry marketing here at Oracle. I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Sean Kelly from ABC Fine Wine and Spirits. We've had a wild year, Sean. Can you talk a little bit about your business, a liquor retailer down in Florida? Can you talk a little bit about your business? And then we're going to talk about what you guys have been going through in this last year.
Sure. So we are a family-owned, Florida family-owned and operated business. We are celebrating our 85th anniversary this year. Very much a part of all the communities in Florida. And a year ago is when we first started seeing the effects of COVID in Florida. I realized that Florida is different than a lot of states, but that's when we started feeling the effects of it. A number of things had happened around the country that led to some government ordinances, both at the county and then at the state level as well. And fortunately, during that time period, we were deemed an essential business. I don't think anybody realized how essential Chardonnay, Cabernet, and Tito's was in their lives until that point. But that was a really big step for us because once we were deemed essential, we knew then that we had the ability to stay open. And from that point on, it was really a matter of figuring out how do we adapt to the very dramatic changes that were happening with our customers. The biggest one happened, the two biggest ones. First, on March 17th, St. Patrick's Day in Florida, all the bars and restaurants were shut down in Florida. So we saw an initial big wave of customers coming in at that point. And then in the middle of April, when stay-at-home orders were more in place and being followed at that point in Florida, we added curbside to our business. And that was a dramatic shift as well. Before that, we had done a couple years of work to build out our e-commerce. So we were ready for massive change and we got it.
So can you talk a little bit about how that changed our operations? So leading into the pandemic, in conversations that you and I've had before, you were talking about the online experience was more of a curated experience, maybe something for a little bit more high end. Can you talk about how this changed the online experience? And then what did your staff do in order to kind of take that online to in-store? To talk a little bit about some of the operations that you needed to change pretty quickly.
Before COVID, it was just known in our business, in our company as BOPIS, buy online, pick up in store. So, it was how many BOPIS orders did you have on a particular day? And the number was extremely low on a point that wasn't concerning from a company-wide investment standpoint, but low to the point where we didn't have as much buy-in from the stores about its importance to our overall brand and service as a company. The orders just weren't there on a level where we saw daily traffic in the stores. But once COVID hits, it's like this one day where the number of orders went way up. And from that point on, it really hasn't come down a lot. We're not at the 2,000% gains that we were in those first couple of months. But with that, our operations portion of our stores had to adjust to not just more people coming in to pick up an online order, but now more people pulling up in their car for a curbside order. So operationally, we had to create essentially captains for our online orders. So you saw a change in our actual schedules where, on any given day, somebody would have to be positioned to handle online orders. And there are different components to that, whether it's returns, changing the order, which ones are going to be handled at the register, which ones are going to be handled curbside. Because we're alcohol retail, we have to worry about IDs. So all those factors played into what we were trying to do operationally. And it was at that point that we got big buy-in from our stores. And we have really great team members who adapt really quickly. And once they bought in and saw what it meant to our business and our future, it really changed things. But adding that captain position was critical.
And the technology that you use to enable the selling and the buying and everything, you're using the commerce solution, and then you also had a couple other elements to that to manage the in-store. Could you just talk about the role of technology in the experience?
Sure. When you've been around as long as we have on a brick and mortar level, technology has not necessarily been at the forefront of our thinking. And over the last couple of years, we've had to advance on a very high level the systems that we have in place to handle what we do as an alcohol retailer. And so that includes how to handle an in-store purchase, how to handle an online purchase, how to handle the shipping that goes with that, and more recently, how to handle same-day delivery, all coming through those systems. And so they all have to talk to each other in a way that, and this is one of the biggest benefits to us, we're able to show real-time inventory or very close to real-time inventory to meet the demands of our guests, which have changed dramatically as they shop online. But we couldn't just think of ourselves as e-commerce. We had to blend with what we were doing at the stores. And with that comes a learning curve as well. It's changing a lot of the old ways of doing things from a business perspective. And not only did we need the systems to keep up with that, we needed the change management processes internally to get people on board with how to use those systems and teaching them how they all talk to each other.
Sean, can you talk a little bit about some of the key things that you guys did from an operational standpoint to make people feel safe with shopping at ABC?
Doing that and getting that right in the early part of all this was a critical part of what we were trying to do. And it really wasn't just our guests, it's our team members as well. We had to figure out, what are we going to do to keep our team members safe? And what are we going to do to make sure that guests feel okay to come into our store? It's not enough to just say, hey, we're essential, come on in. You have to make them feel like and know that they're protected and we're looking after them. So within a few days of being deemed essential, we have our own maintenance department, and within a 3 to 4 day period, we stood up 425 roughly cashier shields, and these were shields that we manufactured on our own. We quickly went down, started measuring out how tall are the guests, how tall are the team members behind a counter, how much room do we have to have for a case or a package to go underneath. And so once we got those up, it gave off this sense of, okay, I'm safe at the register. And this was in addition to putting up social distancing signs. And throughout this process, every time we added a layer of safety, we would email all of our guests in the same way that we do from a sales or coupon perspective. We were telling them, here's what we've done in the store. We now have shields. We now have, round the clock cleaning of all the high touch points. We made masks mandatory for our team members first, and then it became mandatory for our guests as well. And then that big component that I referenced before was adding curbside. We knew that no matter what we did to tell people that our stores were clean, we could show it to them. We could have rags out, wiping everything down. There was enough of our guests who just didn't want to leave their homes or their cars, so we added the curbside element. And in the beginning, it was just people popping their trunk. Slowly, it was opening their back doors, but we let the guest invite us in, essentially, to say, here's what I'm comfortable with. And our team members learned to get a feel for who's comfortable with what. And that really kept us going for the last year.
So in terms of the treatment of the guests and then also the ability to fulfill the orders, I would say that you guys definitely are seeing more loyalty as a result. Can you talk a little bit about loyalty and what that means to you guys at ABC?
Yeah, for us, it means showing that they matter to us. So not just telling them, not just sending them a $5 coupon. It means actively showing them that their wellness and their well-being matters to us. So you have to be, in our opinion, very visible with what we're doing. It didn't need to be some behind the scenes that nobody sees us cleaning. We wanted to show that matters. And the fact that we did a couple of other changes where we changed our store hours so that more of our team members could handle daycare, handle changes in their home lives, where maybe one spouse wasn't working anymore, or maybe they didn't have the daycare that they were used to. Maybe it was an elderly parent who needed extra attention. All those things factored in. We decreased our hours somewhat and had to tell our guests, here's why we're doing it. We have to look after our team members. We've seen over the last year that matters and has mattered more than the coupons that we give, the points that we give, the free bottles that we give. I'm not saying that stuff doesn't matter too, but it was really in the end how we treated them that mattered the most.
Yeah, there's an awesome quote that says, people don't remember what you did, but they remember how you made them feel. Right?
Yeah, for the last year, it's been all about, can you make them feel safe?
Absolutely. We've done some research in the last few months ourselves to just look at what people are doing during the pandemic and what behaviors changed during the pandemic. people bought online for things like alcohol and for groceries and things that they never thought they'd be buying online before. There were people that tried new brands during COVID and during the pandemic. So they were all about discovery, but it was mostly online. Do you think that online is the way forward, or do you think that the role of the store is going to be vital to your future? Can you talk about that from an experience perspective?
Our data really proves to us how much the personal interaction means to our guests. There's no question that online ordering and e-commerce as a whole is growing by leaps and bounds, but there will always be a major component for brick and mortar. In our line of work, you walk into a store, there's a lot coming at you all at once, from different types of bottles, different types of categories. The labels all say something different. It's a lot to figure out. And if you're not experienced in that, you really do need somebody who's going to talk to you and talk you through what you're trying to do. And maybe your goal in the store is to save some money. So it helps to have someone there to steer you in that direction. Maybe your goal is to satisfy a lot of different types of people at a wedding. So having that personal interaction matters. Again, we've seen, even since the pandemic started, our e-commerce numbers are continue to grow. Not like it was during the spike, but there's still high percentages of gains, which basically tells us that people are feeling either they didn't realize before that you could legally do this online. We hear that from time to time, especially as it relates to delivery. But even in online ordering, it just wasn't something that was clicking for people. But we are very confident now more than ever, and I think we were hopeful for this, but more than ever, we've seen that people want to be connected. And so even when the risks were even higher than they are today, people were still coming to our stores because they wanted to talk to people. And even if they didn't, they just wanted to get out and about. So we've had to maintain everything that we're doing in the stores in addition to adding to the technology piece.
So can you talk about your staff? Did you have to add more staff, or did you just have an all hands on deck approach?
In the beginning, it was more or less an all hands on deck approach. We did do quite a bit of hiring in the early stages to handle. There were points where there were lines out the door, so we needed to give some relief to our existing team members who had just spent a lot of time not taking a single day off. So we were fortunate in the sense that in Florida, the tourism business is big. Unfortunately, there were a lot of people from the theme parks or hotels or restaurants who were looking for work, even if it was just for a temporary basis. But we were able to bring them in, and a lot of them are staying with us because they like what we do. Some, fortunately, are getting their jobs back and they're going back to what they were doing before. But we did have to staff up to handle the increases.
I definitely think that it's important to make people feel safe. There's a lot of things that you can do as you kind of look at the situation that you guys were in. I know that it's not always perfect, but can you just talk about some of the things that you guys did to just get going and get started?
Normally, I think it's normal for people to want to be perfect out of the gate.
Mhm.
What the last year has taught us, or maybe reminded us, is that oftentimes you don't have time to be perfect. You just got to get it started. And there were some bumps in the road. Don't get me wrong; the whole picture wasn't rosy for us. We struggled in a lot of areas, but we went at this with the idea that you just got to start. And to a certain degree, if you've created loyalty with your guests, which we believed we had, they will be more accepting of some flaws in your new system that you're rolling out. Curbside was something that we looked at for less than 24 hours on how are we going to do this, and then just decided we could look at this for another week. It's not going to change anything. Let's just start. And it wasn't perfect the first couple of days, but it got really good really fast. So that would be my biggest takeaway is sometimes you just have to be okay with a little less than perfect and then fix it as you go.
John, can you talk to me a little bit about the partnerships to make all of this possible inside your organization, and then who are some of the key people that you partnered with to really kind of make things happen?
Yeah, in our business, you have to have a lot of really strong partnerships. And for us, it starts with our suppliers and wholesalers because we're selling alcohol. And unless we are closely partnered with them, none of this works. But from where I sit, the biggest partnership that we needed to be solid was our partnership with Oracle. And because we knew that and experienced an enormous amount of pressure on all of our systems, and to make it work, you have to have a partnership that's going to be there for the highs and the lows. So when things start to go south, you got to be able to have a relationship with somebody enough to be honest about what's happening, but also in a position where they know, in our case, Oracle knows us now. They know where we play as a small retailer, but try to be as big as we can possibly be. So, and the point there is more on a staffing level. They know what our needs are. And so that partnership was critical for us because they knew when, if we were trying to go too fast or what technology we might be missing. And those types of things, you can't get through something like this without somebody who knows you and you know them and you have that built-in trust.
So the pandemic, nobody expected this. Obviously, it's been a crazy year. I think you do the best you can, but I know you've got some pretty cool philosophies that you guys think about from an ABC leadership team. Could you just talk a little bit about that?
The main philosophy actually comes from I believe a Winston Churchill quote. It's one that's attributed to him, and it's one that my our CEO has been using repeatedly, which is never waste a crisis, and it's really used in a business sense. And what we take from that as a company is don't waste an opportunity to figure out who we are, what we're made out of, and how we can come together better as a team. I haven't been here longer as long as some of the executives here, but I can tell you from a number of different positions that I've had over the years, there's nothing quite like a situation like this that brings a lot of people together with one goal in mind. Um, and that's what we saw from this. This never waste a crisis mentality ended up being a way for all levels of our company to understand that we are in this thing together. We have an opportunity to really play to our strengths and find a way to get better for the future.
Absolutely. I think in this last year, a lot of people have figured out what's really important and really how to work together, how to support each other. The pandemic has definitely been a challenge for many. I just want to thank you so much, Sean, for sharing your story, sharing your experience, and sharing your lessons learned. I think a lot of retailers are going to benefit from this, and I certainly appreciate your time.
Thanks
Thanks.
for having me. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Emily Rudin, and I lead loyalty strategy and growth. I'm here to talk to you today about inspiring the possibilities and deepening relationships between brands and consumers. We are in a new world with new challenges, and retailers and CGs alike are racing to meet expectations around consumer experiences in an evolving landscape. Today, consumers are dictating what brand experiences and their expectations for those experiences should look like. Convenience has become the new normal, and no longer is price, promotion, placement the winning formula for retailers. Today, it's about access and urgency. Digital innovation is now making it possible for brands and retailers to deliver contextualized, real-time experiences across all channels. And we've seen a blur in the lines of direct-to-consumer brands and retailers as D2C organizations and brands have used the last year as an opportunity to build deeper consumer relations. All of this in a period of increased economic uncertainty. It's been a big task. And for retailers, The digital battleground is where customer experiences and loyalty will be won and lost. Today, 58% of consumers shop online because it's available to them 24/7. And 73% of customers will shop across multiple channels based on what's available, what's convenient, and how they want to shop. Loyalty, however, is a byproduct of these exceptional brand experiences wherever consumers engage or choose to engage. 66% of consumers today say that they're more likely to switch brands to ones that offer superior customer services and experiences. This is a greater rate of change than we've seen in a very long time. But loyalty is not new for brands. We've been looking at loyalty since the early 1920s, when box tops first emerged in the marketplace. This was an opportunity for a mom, as she shopped in the grocery store, to be able to buy a packaged good that she could then bring home, use for consumption with her family, and cut out that little cardboard piece on the top and return it to her child's school. This was a connection between the supermarket aisle, the kitchen table, and the community. And today, customer experiences with brands very much are in the same place. Only the world has grown from the cardboard box to now be about every place that a consumer can experience a brand across the digital and physical ecosystem. It's about connecting experiences across every interaction and making sure that those are relevant and meaningful for today's modern consumer. It's time to rethink loyalty. Innovative, forward-thinking brands understand that it's not a spend-to-get relationship. It's about building deeper brand trust, confidence, and relationships. And that these exceptional experiences bring lifelong valuable customers, customers who engage more, spend more, share more, and refer more. In today's modern consumer experiences, brands define value, but consumer journeys are not what they used to be. Before, a customer had defined entry points to a brand, and today that's not the case. Consumers can enter into the ecosystem, dictate their own journeys, and engage with brands as they see fit, across channels and mediums that they desire, at times that are right for them. They look for dynamic, real-time engagement, whether they're shopping for a new pair of jeans in the middle of the night and engaging with a chatbot to figure out about the fit, or however they're choosing to engage with brands. It's all real time, and it's all the time they're ready for. Inspiring loyalty is about connecting with consumers at every single touch point, whether it's about helping a consumer identify a need, straight through to every experience across the browse and select, the purchase and use, and then the refer. Because today's modern consumer is also the modern day influencer, recommending products, sharing their experiences, and inviting friends into the brand's ecosystem. All ways that brands and consumers are deepening their relationships today and building relationships that are solid for the future. The other big change that we've seen is the relationships of brands and consumers have become different and more important as the home has become the hub. Brands who have done an exceptional job connecting with consumers in this big period of change have dramatically changed the way their customers view their brands. Really important as we think about the tone of voice, the change in ways that brands are now engaging with consumers. We're no longer hearing so much about big sales events, but rather about making that change you want to make or being that best version of ourselves. These experiences, these touch points that used to be nice to have aren't any longer. Consumers expect brands to be authentic, relevant, empathetic, and context aware at every moment. And in order to do that, they need to understand so much about who their consumers are, why they engage, and how they engage. Anything else puts a brand's risk at survival because it is more important today than ever that consumers and brands connect in ways that far extend the purchase funnel. And brands have an amazing opportunity to connect across so many channels and provide consumers with that connected experience, recognizing me when I show up in store, when I'm on the web, when I get an email, making that experience something that is connected and relevant for me, building that confidence and trust along the ecosystem. And when done well, there are huge benefits for both brands and their consumers, but also for organizations. Brands who are able to do this consistently are seeing an increase of 20% growth in revenue and reduction in cost by almost 30%. This is really important as we think about the new digital future, how brands and consumers are going to continue to connect over time, and ways to make this efficient at scale and successful in that brand trust relationship with their consumers. Yet today, only 2% of brands are maximizing the data-driven CX opportunity. And when done well, you can build best customer experiences while improving the efficiency of your team. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining in for our session on elevating customer connections with Alyssa from Yankee Candle and Roger from Foot Locker. Thank you both for joining me today. We are privileged to have these two guest speakers here to talk with us a little bit about the relaunches of their loyalty program and how both Yankee Candle and Foot Locker are using loyalty to deepen connections with consumers. Roger, can you tell me a little bit about Foot Locker's decision to reinvest in loyalty and redo the loyalty experience for customers?
Sure. So we were trying to accomplish several different objectives when we were rethinking loyalty at Foot Locker. The first was addressing the fact that under Foot Locker, we have several different brands: Foot Locker, Kids Foot Locker, Champs, etc. And each of those brands had their own loyalty program. So Foot Locker had its own VIP program, Kids Foot Locker had a VIP program, Champs had a VIP program, and none of them were connected to each other. So a customer could conceivably be a member of 5 different VIP programs under Foot Locker. So we wanted to solve for that. We wanted to create one comprehensive loyalty program that cut across all of our brands so that no matter where the customer shopped, they would earn rewards towards a single loyalty program. The second thing we were trying to accomplish was the fact that the previous programs were very financially discount oriented. So largely a % off or $1 off. And we recognized our customer base, while some of them appreciate financial discounts, we also recognize that experiential rewards were very much a motivating factor. You know, our audience and our customer base tends to skew a little bit younger. Like I said, they appreciate the financial discounts, but they're also looking for something more. And they know that Foot Locker can deliver that, whether it be events or access to talent or something different than the typical financially discounted rewards program can offer.
Perfect. Thank you, Roger. Alyssa, can you tell me a little bit about Yankee Candle's decision to reinvest in loyalty?
Of course. We started off in 2014 with our fan club program and built up a really large member base. They were spending more, so we knew they were valuable customers, but we saw engagement stalling when we started to look at the number of members who were making at least one purchase within a year. So that gave us kind of a red flag to start looking at our construct. We had a hunch that some of our perks and points earning activities were outdated, something like earning points for joining Foursquare. So we knew right off the bat that we wanted to update how members earned points, but also similar to what Roger was saying, we were really primarily just a dollars off points-based program. And because our program spanned across our D2C site and our retail stores, we wanted to provide a differentiated experience for someone coming to our D2C site that they couldn't find at any of our other e-retailers across the board. So really giving a member a reason to shop with us on our D2C site and making those perks and engagement opportunities more relevant.
Alyssa, can you share a little bit with how the new program construct differs from how the old program looked in market, and what fans could expect to see from Yankee Candle Rewards today?
Yeah, so in the past, where we were just earn points to get $5 in free vouchers, we've evolved to earn points to get $5 in Candle Cash. So we've kind of updated that. And we didn't leave that part of the program behind because it was something that was working, something that our members, it really resonated with them and it was driving frequency of purchase. So we left that, but just gave it a facelift with the earn points to get Candle Cash. But what we did was add a level of tier status. So in the past, we just had one member base. Now today we have fragrance fans, those who just joined the program, and fragrance lovers, those who have earned 1,000 points in the program. We've also added a host of perks beyond just the dollars off in the Candle Cash, such as a free birthday gift. If you can think of candles, what not better to give a birthday gift? We offer our members a lower shipping threshold if they reach a higher tier status. We offer points acceleration, so earning more points once they get to the top tier status. And we also offer points for things like writing reviews or taking our fragrance quiz, which is super important to us online because it's giving our members a way to kind of find a candle that might work for them when they can't smell it online.
I love it. And Roger, can you tell me a little bit about what FLX feels like and looks like today compared to maybe the VIP programs of before?
Sure. We feel like it's completely transformed loyalty within the organization. Right? Like I mentioned, it was a shift from financial discounts to more experiential rewards, but we also shifted to a points-based economy. Right. So for every dollar you spend, you get 100 points, and then those points can be utilized in an online redemption center. Again, something very new to this program. The previous program was just they tracked your spend, and then once you hit a certain spend threshold, you would automatically get a discount. Right, so very different, but also very engaging for the member. Right, hopefully, what we're seeing is encouraging members to constantly come back, check what's in the redemption center. We're able to send a lot more interesting communications about it. Check out the newest redemption center item, or check out this new benefit. So yeah, much more engaging and just much more interactive, and quite frankly, much more fun to manage because there's so many more different elements to it.
Both of them sound like very fun and engaging programs. Let's talk a little bit about 2020. So 2020 put a wrinkle in all of our plans and created very difficult and challenging business situations and environments for all brands and retailers alike. Can you talk a little bit about the impact of 2020 on your brand's business and how loyalty enabled you to position yourselves differently or help absorb some of the shock that was created as a result of some of the, chaos that may have come about when the pandemic started? Roger, how did FLX help to support Foot Locker through this period of time?
Sure. So just to give you a little bit of the history for 2020 for us, we launched FLX in February of 2020, so February 4th precisely. So I think 5 weeks after that, we were all hit with COVID, right? So not much of an auspicious start because, as you know, once you launch a program, at the outset, you're usually fixing things that need fixing, and then you enter a stabilization period, and then you're off to the races. We never really felt like we got that stabilization right, throughout 2020. And it was challenging, to be honest. Like I mentioned before, we revamped our loyalty program to be more experiential. And what happens when those experiences go away? What do you do in that situation? So the team, to its credit, did a lot of work to rethink, okay, we're not going to have an all-star game this year. We're not going to have these events that we typically have access to. What do we do in that case? And we had to rethink our redemption strategy. Though knowing those things are not going to be available, what do we offer? So we definitely pivoted hard, but we wanted to keep it fun, right? So we recognized everybody was home, everybody was stuck where they were. What are they going to be doing at home? The first thing we did was pivot to sweepstakes, because we know that there's a gamification element there. So we did a stay in and win sweepstakes series where we focused on things that were to be utilized for exercise, knowing that people were going to be home. So we gave away a Peloton, gave away a mirror exercise tool, gave away these fun things, knowing that that would probably be the focus for the near term, and who knew it was going to be for the foreseeable year. So that was a hard pivot. That actually really did well. So we recognized that as people were home, they were still engaging with us in the communications, which was great. They appreciated these types of awards. So it was pretty successful for us. And we were able to maintain the metrics that we set out for even before COVID hit. So it was good in that we were able to re-strategize and still stay effective for the organization.
Yeah, and those pivots really make a difference with connecting with customers in this uncertain time, certainly as we've all felt it. And we've seen a lot of brands making some of those hard adjustments, kind of shifting gears pretty dramatically to meet the customers where they were, and using their loyalty programs as a great bridge to do that. Alyssa, I know that Yankee Candle was getting ready to launch as the pandemic hit. Can you share a little bit about what your launch experience looked like in the midst of everything that was going on around us?
It was certainly different than planned. We had planned to launch in March 2020 and really step back at that time to think about what we might do. And so we decided to wait 2 months and launch in May 2020 instead. And in those 2 months, we built out a different strategy in terms of our marketing tone of voice. We extended some of our coupon expiration dates for a birthday reward or for our candle cash to make sure they were extended to when we thought stores might open, and we continued to extend those as we knew more. But what it really helped us to do was fill a void in some of our CRM efforts and some of that marketing tone of voice, where we typically would say we're X% off on a certain category, and in most of our emails, we were able to really pull back. And with a happy challenge with production facilities being deemed non-essential, we were limited in our inventory. So we had to find a creative way to keep our customers engaged without giving them these really deep discounts and promotions to blow out of our inventory. So that's where the rewards program came in, to give that CRM effort something to talk about, something to keep our consumers engaged and excited about, and then something to market that wasn't a product specific and wasn't at risk to sell down on inventory. So that's where we took the time to really engage with our customers to talk about what the program was, what the different construct was with the relaunch, what the exciting ways that they could earn points for, like taking the quiz could be, that wasn't necessarily, buying a product at a specific price. And so that really helped us through the pandemic, really finding a good CRM cadence and learning more about our members where we couldn't promote as much.
Yeah, and it's really been wonderful to watch the Yankee Candle program as it's relaunched in market, particularly in this period. We talk a lot with brands about the home being the hub and meeting consumers where they are. And both FLX and Yankee Candle Rewards really have done that. And Alyssa, you bring up a great point that a lot of brands have struggled with: inventory, right? The supply chain implications of 2020, not lost certainly on retailers. So really being able to adjust and help surround your organization with what was working, what could work, right? That right tone of voice without being so promotional. It will be interesting as we follow both of your programs out of hopefully soon a pandemic timeframe to see where these programs go. But I know that they've both been hugely successful to date. Roger, can you share a little bit about some of the insights and results that FLX has seen since the launch?
Sure. The program, like I said, has been pretty successful despite COVID and the store shutdowns that we all had to endure. And we were concerned, to be honest, at the outset to say, do we need to adjust our KPIs and forecasts for the year? And knowing that it's just so radically different and we don't know. But what I said was, let's just press on, and if we fall short, we fall short. But I think what we will continue to say in the organization was, look, this is going to be a year of learnings for us, regardless of what happens. Even if COVID didn't happen, we would take the year and not make any drastic changes or be rash and make, snap decisions. Let's learn, because this is so different from our old program. We need to get a foundation of insights and learnings. The great thing is, as far as KPIs are concerned, even not having to adjust the forecast, we met our goals for the year, which is exciting to see. And if you listen to any of our earnings calls, you'll hear a lot of statistics for each of the quarterly earnings calls mentioned, where FLX was talked about, which is great to hear. Also, it's great to see the company supportive and wanting to talk about the loyalty program. It was mentioned that we, at the end of the year, surpassed 17 million members, which is terrific for our first year, above what we had forecasted. There was also some mention of just overall sales of FLX members being higher than non-members, as well as order frequency. So all the typical standard KPIs that you would track against are doing well. But we also recognize there's a lot more that we could be tracking in the program, in our members. So we're taking 2020 as, like I said, the learning year, and applying that to see what do we do differently this year. And I think we're all feeling like there's a light at the end of the tunnel here. What can we do to really ratchet up things that we want to improve in the program, things we want to add, and hopefully get back to the more experiential rewards that we've been talking about for the better part of a year.
Perfect. And Alyssa, when Yankee Candle looks back at not yet a complete year, but almost a complete year, any really great learnings that you all have had, whether it be insights from consumers, reactions to the programs, or even some financial metrics that have really been inspiring for your team?
We've heard some great feedback from our consumers, and I think we were careful to test the program out before we rolled it out to make sure that the feedback would be positive. We're still learning as we go, but across the board, we've seen members purchasing more frequently than non-members, spending more than non-members. In terms of our penetration of rewards business, it's grown 3 times compared to 2018 when we started to look at the program. So those are all great metrics. And then in terms of member acquisition, we started with a pretty big base, but we're seeing 1 in 4 members new since May 2020. So I think that's great. People are really excited about the new program, and we're continuing to engage the existing base. And then as far as our goals, of driving frequency, making sure that it's a differentiated program, and then gaining insights from our members, I'd say that third bucket is where we're starting to learn the most, where in the past we really did not segment our customers at all, or our members. It was really, the members, non-members would all get the same email communication, would all have the same journey. And today we're starting to use that, the insights that we have from the program, to build out these segmented, personalized journeys for our members. And we're seeing that kind of trickle back to us tenfold.
Yeah, and I imagine as you look to the future, that will be a strategy that you're going to continue with. So as you look out at a new year, finishing up the first complete year of the new revamped program, what do you see being as some of those key themes you're interested in continuing in 2021, and things you may want to try in 2021 that you didn't quite have the chance to do yet in your program?
I think when I hear Roger kind of explain the journey of Foot Locker, we're about a year behind where we're starting. We have a home fragrance suite of brands at Yankee Candle. We also have Woodwick and Chesapeake Bay, where our members do earn points on those purchases. We do have a shared cart for all of those brands. However, we don't really have the marketing strategy to support that family of brands program. So we're looking at ways that we can creatively weave in that marketing message that a member that is a Woodwick consumer might engage with the Yankee Candle Rewards program. Does that mean potentially updating the name or the construct to accommodate those? We're also looking at different regions of expansion. Would it make sense to expand globally? All under discussion now. So I think all of those things are great. And then we're continuing to look at the portfolio of reward benefits beyond dollars off that we could offer. How can we, engage our member base more with things potentially like samples or physical products or giveaways, sweepstakes, things like that.
Perfect. Well, we're so excited to see where the Yankee Candle Rewards program is going to go. Roger, as you look ahead and you look at 2021, knowing that so much of your program was really going to be around, maybe sports experiences, maybe those fan experiences in events and stadiums. And you guys have done such a wonderful job of connecting with that consumer, bringing the home to the forefront, being with them when they were there, encouraging us all to still wear and buy our new sneakers. What does 2021 look like for FLX?
Yeah, like Alyssa, we're going to look to really expand our rewards offerings, hopefully to incorporate those experiential rewards that hopefully will come back soon. But we're also looking beyond that. I think one of the interesting things that we're recognizing is the Foot Locker customer is a very diverse customer base. Yes, we have the diehard sneakerheads, but we also have more of the casual shoppers, right? That might just stop in a store for a pair of sneakers and they sign up for FLX. So we want to make sure we address all the different types of rewards and loyalty customers that we have. And we're recognizing that they're interested in a lot of different things. We're looking at physical goods as well to add to that, to our catalog. We're looking at expanding the types of benefits we also provide, recognizing that if you're a higher tier member, you expect a higher tier of benefit. So what could we offer that makes sense for both the sneakerhead type customer and maybe the more casual customer? So really want to ramp up from the benefit side as well as the redemption side.
Perfect. Well, it sounds like very one-to-one communications, relevant experiences for your biggest fans, both of you, in the upcoming year. And we're excited to see both of those programs continue to grow, continue to evolve, continue to lead your independent spaces, and also delight fans and consumers every day. So thank you so much for sharing your stories with us. I know that it's been an exciting first year of program launches, a lot of really great learnings as you've both set out to do. And we're really excited to see where both Yankee Candle Rewards and FLX go in the future. So thank you for taking the time today.
I hope everyone enjoyed all of these sessions, especially hearing from ABC Fine Wines, Foot Locker, and Yankee Candle, as they discussed how they're utilizing digital transformation to pivot over this last year. You'll recall ABC walked us through curbside pickup and an outstanding in-person experience that ensured customer safety. Foot Locker pivoted its loyalty program to encompass the current landscape and conditions while maintaining its experiential benefits and reward offerings. And Yankee Candle actually launched their loyalty program to maintain direct connections with shoppers, even when in-store shopping traffic reached new lows. What we hope you take away from today's CX Virtual Summit is the message that in this world, it is essential to truly be a connected retailer, because you'll always have connected shoppers. They'll connect with you in an omni-channel. And when you know who they are and what they want, you'll be better able to meet their needs at any point in time, becoming a true master of the customer experience. Thanks again, and have a great day.